Shabbat Shalom. I'm Rabbi Robert Barr, and you are?
I have Pillsbury,
Hey.
the rabbinic intern at Congregation Beth Adam.
And we are delighted you're sharing this Shabbat service with us. We're going to begin with the reading, and then we'll go from there. So feel start.
Let the Sabbath be a time for believing in what could be and seeing with new eyes. In this serious world, let us take ourselves a little less seriously. In these harsh times, let us listen for a soothing word. While the world around us unfolds in an instant, let us judge each other a little more slowly.
Let the Sabbath shine a light into a corner of ourselves where hope is renewed. Let us remember a reason to be joyful, a way to be gentle. Let the Sabbath be time for opening up. Let us find strength in our dreams and trust in our strength. So we're so delighted you're here celebrating this Shabbat with us, observing this Shabbat with us here at ourjewishcommunity.org, which is based at Congregation Beth Adam in Loveland, Ohio, a community that has given bold expression to a contemporary Judaism, a Judaism that speaks to who we are as 21st century Jews, a Judaism that understands that reason and evidence must inform the way we approach our lives, approach our Judaism, understanding the universe, and then capture those ideas and place them into the liturgy. That the words we say are important and they're meaningful, and we need to feel comfortable with what we're saying and authentic. So that's what ourjewishcommunity.org is all about in Beth Adam. And then we use technology to share that message with people wherever they are. We can create a community through the internet, here in the bricks and mortar congregation, and merge them and intertwine them together. And it is so exciting. We know that many of you watch online in real time at 6 o'clock on Friday nights, but many more actually are watching in the recorded version, in archives. At 6 o'clock on a Friday night just doesn't work in your schedule. Whether you're watching live or in the archives, that's great. Always know your comments can be continue. We can keep on talking to each other. That's the excitement of this new format. And for those of you who are in North America and the United States, particularly, hopefully you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. This is the first Friday. This is the Friday after Thanksgiving. Hope you're relaxed, probably eating some more leftovers. And so we're glad that you're here. Whenever you're joining us, whatever place you're living, whatever your experience is, we are a community together giving voice to who we are in a way that speaks to what it means to be Jewish in the 21st century. So we're going to continue with our candle lighting.
Night seeps up from the ground. Light falls from the stars. Icy. Distant, ancient beyond all who came before. But the light of the Sabbath is warm. The light of the Sabbath is ours. The light of the Sabbath is of this time, of this place, of lives that know the past only in a dream.
As we light these lights, we create a place of warmth. As we light these lights, we welcome this time for reflection. As we light these lights, we stake our claim. And while these lights burn, the time is ours. Baruch ha'or ba'olam, blessed is the light within the world. Baruch ha'or ba'adam, blessed is the light within each person. Baruch ha'or ba'shabbat, blessed is the light of the Sabbath. As I said, I'm Robert Barr, and this is Aya Pillsbury, and we are here at Congregation Beth Adam and with you at ourjewishcommunity.org. And what I wanted to talk tonight about with Aya is Hanukkah. Hanukkah is just a few days away, and Aya's been working hard on a new resource guide to make the experience of Hanukkah more rich, more textured, more exciting for adults and children. And I was going to ask you, so Aya, you worked on the guide for many months. What things jumped out at you as you were spending time as a researcher and as a rabbi, thinking about what you were going to put into it? What came up for you?
First and foremost, there are no rules to how you celebrate a Jewish holiday. And the more research, this is the second resource guide that I've helped create. First one we had in Rosh Hashanah,
right.
And now Hanukkah. And the more research I do, the more clear it is that this has always been the case, that there, in fact, have never been just one way to do anything. Mm-hmm. And that's been surprising and exciting. And I think the other thing that's particular particularly exciting about Hanukkah is all of the wonderful, complicated themes of wrestling with light and dark, with identity, with destruction, with choice. When do I walk away from something that's awful, and when do I stop and try to make it good again? And it's also, Hanukkah is especially complicated or tricky or just a little messy because of the interfaith reality of our world. You know, I grew up in an interfaith home, and so it was especially exciting to be able to try and help people find ways that they could incorporate different traditions.
So that was
That's a lot.
That's a lot. So let's sort of like break it into a couple pieces. I think the first point you made is one that I think is so important. Sometimes people, we tend to think that what we grew up with or what our rabbis taught us or what we learned once was the way it's always been. And I know a lot of times people are shocked when I do adult education and I say, well, you know, that oil thing, somebody made that up. Or, you know, we didn't always light the candles the way we do. Or, and they're going, oh, no, Bob, no. But when you start doing the research...
No, there's a debate in the Talmud about the right way to light candles. One rabbi thought that you should start with all of the candles lit and then decrease, and then another rabbi thought it should be the opposite. And so one rabbi won.
Right. And I think that idea of Judaism as a dynamic debate is really important because we're a lot about that. We really believe that Judaism needs to be evolutionary. It needs to be able to change. It needs to be able to grow and reflect who we are. And somehow I think there's this notion that everything in the past is sort of static, that Judaism popped into existence, and it's been the same ever since. And one of our challenges and goals is to sort of break that sort of mindset, because it's so much more exciting when you go, we're free to continue to create. Our ancestors created traditions. We get to create traditions. We don't just inherit them. We also are the manufacturers of traditions for the future. So I'm glad you came up with that. I think the notion of so that notion of dark and light is sort of fascinating too.
Well, so we call Hanukkah the Festival of Lights. And so, you know, we light 8 different candles, 9 if you count the helper candle as well. And so it's all about light, except why does light matter? Because of the darkness in the context. And I think a lot of times it can be easier to focus on the good stuff in life or get just so scared by darkness because you can't see anything. And when we don't know what's going on, it is scary.
And we create stories and we create all kinds of things.
Which falls exactly into the creation of legends, the creation of meaning, and how these things happen to begin with.
And I think it's interesting, too, because in the guide, you reference the notion that, you know, Hanukkah was a Jewish holiday that came later. There were pre-Jewish holidays. We call them pagan holidays typically, which has unfortunately become a pejorative. Pagan shouldn't be a pejorative. It just means before the Jews came along and before that set of holidays came into existence. But we have to imagine that in the ancient world, before sort of even Judaism came along, which is relatively modern in the history of human life, when the sun was growing shorter in the northern hemisphere, and people thought that the sun was shrinking and the light was disappearing and coolness was growing.
And there's no food.
It's got to be scary.
Yeah.
And that notion, sort of try to think back what it must have been like, and the idea that they were probably lighting fires in some version of what's called sympathetic magic. You do things on earth to change what's in heaven. Remember, the ancient people, they had no idea what they were looking at. They literally had no idea what they were seeing. They just knew this giant ball of light, which seemed to give heat, was going away. So they were trying to say, don't die.
Yeah.
And eventually that lighting of candles sort of works its way into Hanukkah. We give it a new meaning. But you could see where it would have been. It had to be terrifying.
And especially, and so that's one of that idea of when we don't understand something, we create a story or decide that it's a miracle or often just push authority away from ourselves is one of the things that comes up over and over in the different kinds of activities that we have. So we have various like glow-in-the-dark stuff that if you didn't understand science, it does look pretty miraculous, magical, crazy, but there's really great science behind it.
Yeah, there's great science. There's the one about breaking candy. Very, that's a really cool one. And what I did, and I think it's really important to do, is go to the guide, look at something, and then click onto the link or go to the reference place to learn the science behind it, because it opens up and you begin to go, wow, this is so cool that somebody understood this, because we have the benefit of being modern people, and we have the benefit of science, and we shouldn't ignore that. It informs who we are and what we are, and it doesn't take the coolness away, right? It doesn't, when you break the candy in the darkness and you see a spark, it doesn't mean it's not any less cool. It's like, now I even understand it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and think about how much more we will be able to understand 10, 15, 20 years from now. Because science is always changing too.
So rapidly. So I like that. I like you played with the idea of walking. When do we walk away from something? When do we invest the energy to keep fighting for it? When do we walk away from it? How do we know the difference? So you raised. I really liked, because I got to read it again and again and again. Though we did some editing, right? But how you brought out the issues, sort of these certain themes of, and created a whole series of conversations. While the guide is primarily designed for adults with kids, it isn't exclusively, because a lot of the conversations in there that are you can just level them for whatever group you are. You could have a conversation with a group of adults. In fact, I know that happened with some folks on Rosh Hashanah. There was some people found it, and they wound up using it for adult conversation at the Rosh Hashanah dinner table. I think this has the same sort of opportunity, plus some coolness about when does something get destroyed. I like that. If you're into paint, there's a great painting.
There's a splatter paint exercise about when's the line between when it gets more and more beautiful, the more different colors and stuff you do, and then you reach a certain place and then everything goes downhill.
Right. So you get to do that, and I think too you did a really good job with helping us develop the conversation about identity, because I think that is really a big issue for Hanukkah, because it plays into the Hanukkah Christmas season, and lots of interfaith families, they've gotten a lot of mixed messages. Frequently, they've gotten awful mixed messages, really negative mixed messages, and then it all gets captured in this thing called the December dilemma, as if all of one's identity is trapped in this 4-week period.
Yeah, and speaking personally, I grew up in an interfaith family and very vividly remember how difficult celebrating Christmas and Hanukkah was until our family sat down as a family and talked about what we liked about the different traditions and made certain choices about how we were going to celebrate everything.
So some of the stuff in the book actually was really personal experience. It was like it's beta tested. You actually did. So what you wrote down was stuff that you as a family had done.
And I made it a little bit more concrete in terms of make some lists of things that you like, what are memories or feelings you want to evoke, what activities are things that you think of when you think of Hanukkah or you think of Christmas. We didn't do anything that intense, but the expectations make a huge difference, and especially with gift giving. Like children like presents.
Right.
And yet we don't want it to be all about the presents.
Right.
And so it was really exciting for me to think about some of these things that made such a big difference in my own family, and hopefully will help you guys find other traditions that work for you, because it's all about finding your own truth and your own meaning. Right,
because absolutely. And I think we tried to say that a lot in the guide, that this is your Hanukkah. It's not anybody else's, right? And there are no rules. And the more you have a sense of what is comfortable and what isn't comfortable, and a sense of clarity, the more you can really grow with the experience. It doesn't get trapped. You're not trapped by the past. You get enriched by it. I mean, personally, in my family, we always went to what's called the Festival of Lights, which is the big sort of Christmas display at the zoo as part of our Hanukkah celebration. It was fun. Yeah. We didn't go, oh, gee, because we're Jewish, we shouldn't go there. But it became part, one of the 8 nights of Hanukkah. It was always fun. Frequently, it was chili. We'd get hot chocolate. There was a great fudge.
Nice.
But we incorporated that as a family. So I thought the questions you raised, and then also if you're an interfaith family, how you might perceive things. So there's a question, how do you see a Christmas tree? Is it a religious symbol or is it a secular symbol? Lots of Jews see it as a religious symbol, and a lot of Christians see it as a secular symbol. And so all of a sudden I've met with couples and they're in an argument. The problem is they're arguing about an object, but neither of them have talked about what the object means to them.
Because we just assume that when I look at the candles, you see the same thing that I do.
Right.
And the truth is that religious language has been so complicated, and everyone that we don't necessarily know what we're really saying or really talking about unless we stop and
process it.
Yeah.
And with the Christmas tree, so if you grew up without a Christmas tree, right, oftentimes the reason parents told their kids, and I remember my mother telling me this, is why don't we have a Christmas tree? Mom, why don't we have a Christmas tree? Well, Bobby, because it's a religious symbol. So that period of time, it was, for Jews who were raised without it, that was what we were told, the kids were told. Now, the Christian kids, that wasn't necessarily the reason we put it up. Why do we put up a Christmas tree? Because it's a celebration of our holiday. It's one of the secular symbols of our holiday.
Because we collect ornaments, because we do this as a family. We have the whole decorating process. It smells pretty. Has nothing to do with anything else.
Right, and so the different experiences, so when I came to it, it was amazing once I sort of gained this insight, and then I had a friend of mine give me a tour of his Christmas tree. And
That's awesome.
And he went through the ornaments, and it was family history.
Yeah.
It wasn't religion. This is a family history. Here's what I made when I was a little kid. Here's grandparents. I can't remember all of them, but it was more than just beautiful. It really was a story that was hanging in their house, and I wasn't so intimidated by it because it was no longer a religious symbol. It was a familial, secular symbol.
Yeah.
So this is a great opportunity, even if you're in a non-interfaith marriage. Some of the questions may help you perk your interest to see, why am I responding X, Y, or Z to certain things?
And what do I want our Hanukkah to look like? In the sense of Hanukkah's 8 days, and that's a long period of time, and there can be some choices. Do I want to celebrate? Does our family want to celebrate really for one night, for 2 nights, for 3 nights, for all? So there's lots of negotiating. And the other part of this is that it's a process. And just because this year we do things one way doesn't mean that next year it can't be radically different or exactly the same. It's really all comes back to there are no rules.
And 8 nights is a lot. I mean, that's a great. Are you gonna? And even when we say, are we going to celebrate it for 8 nights?
And what does that mean?
Does that mean everyone gather real quick around the table, light the candles and run away? Is that a celebration, or is that pro forma? Is it better to do 1 or 2 nights of we're going to spend time together doing Hanukkah-esque stuff?
Do you have to have presents every night?
I do.
Do you have to have...
What are you kidding me?
Latkes every night. We never had presents every night. We always had one night of presents. So to me, Hanukkah is one night of presents.
So because some people do like 1 night of big presents and then 7 nights of little presents, right? That's sometimes how people negotiate. Some people do, I don't know, a big present every 8 nights. I guess some people do, but we never did.
Or you could
some
do a
version.
little present every night.
Right, that was tend to be, and or do you do an activity? Is 1 night activities, 1 night a movie night? Is 1 night going to like the Festival of Lights or taking a walk together? Is one going to a homeless shelter, doing some work, cooking food, social action? Is 1 night gift giving? Is 1 night bringing together lots of people and families together for dinner? What does that mean? So I think you can create different traditions that are fun as long as there's intentionality. And some years it's going to be different. Was it 2 years ago? Thanksgiving and Hanukkah bumped into each other.
Thanksgiving.
Right, beginning Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
People felt they were free to make choices, but you should always feel you have that freedom to make the choices. It's always a lot more fun to do that, to figure it out, to do it differently every year.
Yeah.
So what I want to urge you all to do is take a look at the resource guide. Download the resource guide because there's some coloring book pages.
Yeah.
And what you should know is many of the illustrations, almost all the illustrations.
All of them except for the dreidel on the cover. That was Alan.
That was it. So Aya did the dreidel, and so there are coloring book pages.
Yeah.
So there are coloring book pages you can download, color them.
And there's some fun stories too at the end. There's a Hanukkah themed story about the lopsided dreidel named Mary, who had some difficulty spinning. And then we also have a children's version of the Hanukkah story you could just tell to your family, as well as a historical explanation of the history of the Hanukkah story.
And evolution. Plus, there's a reference to, so if you go to ourjewishme.org, you go to holidays, and there's a little flyout, you'll see Hanukkah. We have a lot of other, in addition to the resource guides, there are even more materials. And I want to go back to the coloring book page just a second.
Please.
Because there's been a whole thing about the meditative nature of coloring. Have you been reading about that? And it's good for adults. So even if you don't have a kid around the house, don't feel guilty. Download it. Say it's for like a cousin or a nephew or something like that, or your neighbor, and color it, because it probably is very relaxing, and you'll get a sense of sort of little meditativeness on it. So go to that. We have a Hanukkah video that's online. If you've not seen it, you can go to Cincinnati OJC. It's going to be on our Facebook page. Share it. We're proud of it. It's
awesome.
very good. And I'm going to tell you right now, you got to watch to the end.
It's true. It won't make sense.
It won't make sense until you get to the end. It's sort of like the Marvel comics where in the credits they tell you something about the next movie. Sort of like that. So go watch to the very end. It's very cute. Okay, so we got a lot going on. Cincinnati OJC. The Hanukkah resource guide is there, and the Hanukkah video is there. Facebook, share it, promote it, because what we want to do together and with you is to remind people Hanukkah is yours. We get to do it as we feel comfortable. There are no rules. There is no tradition that we must do. We get to celebrate it. We connect to our past by being engaged with it, not being constrained by it.
Yeah, definitely.
Good. So we're going to continue with our challah reading. If you'll do that, I'll uncover this.
From the earth, a seed harbored in darkness. From heat and cold and wet and dry, to wind and air and rain. Golden ground, flour from wheat, with water and yeast, active and alive. Always something saved. From the earth, sweetness and salt. From nature, tamed oil and eggs. Mixed and rested in darkness and warmth, kneaded smooth, made right by touch. Hands that shape, mouths that want, from the earth our challah of warmth. Baruch Amal Kapenu, blessed is the work of our hands. Baruch Hazon Ha'adam, blessed is the vision of our minds. Baruch Lechem Haaretz, blessed is the bread of the earth.
And then you have some juice or wine. Join me. We lift the cup together, a tribute to our past and a blessing for our future. May the allure of its untold flavors beckon us forever to keep uncovering new branches, new roots that hold us together. Tonight, as we welcome the Sabbath, may we find time to spend in our own quiet company and listen to the calling of our hearts. Bruchim ha'chayim ba'olam, blessed is the life within the world. Bruchim ha'chayim ba'adam, blessed is the life within each person. And so we say, l'chaim,
L'chaim,
to life. A couple quick announcements. As I said, go to Cincinnati OJC. There you'll find our Hanukkah resource guide and our Hanukkah video. Please share them. Download the resource guide when it's on Facebook, which it will be. Like it, share it, and so that'll be there. All those materials at both those sites. Also, next week we will have Rabbi Ofer Sabbath Bet Halachmi will be joining me for services. Maybe you were with us before. Ofer is from Israel. He's a rabbi who now lives in the United States. We had a really interesting conversation about sort of American and Jewish culture. We're going to consider different ways Judaism is being explored. So be a participant in that. Next week is our December 4th, so that'll be our memorial service, on Friday night memorial. So if you have names of deceased loved ones that you'd like to include in the service, please send them to me at rabbi@ourjewishcommunity.org, or you can post them on our Facebook page, typically about Wednesday of the week before the service. That service, I'll put a post up that says, please send the names. You're welcome to put them there as well. So we're delighted you're here. Glad you, hope you have a wonderful week. And we close with our final words. May we know blessings those who are near. May we know blessings those who are far. May the Sabbath bring its goodness to everyone soon, wherever they are. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.